y'all. This is Carlie.
And Lex.
And this is episode 2 of Carlie's Couch. How y'all doing today? How you feeling? What are you grateful for? Okay. So, that's how I start every day.
Get your mind right before you listen.
Get your mind right. Because you can come on the couch, get comfortable. So today's episode is entitled, When Moving On is Hard.
Ooh, I'm already triggered.
Oh my God. I think that's triggering for everybody. I got triggered saying it. That's why I paused. Like, sometimes moving on is easy. Like,
Carlie, don't have me crying on this podcast.
Oh my God.
Because I am not, like, super duper emotional, but don't get me going. Because I'm be like, I just need a moment.
We'll see where the day goes. But today's topic is moving on. Sometimes that's easy. Sometimes that's hard. Sometimes it feels impossible.
Hard. It always feels impossible when it's going on, but then you look back at a zillion other people or things or relationships or whatever it is that you had to move on from, you're like, well, I'm real good on that, but I just need some more time.
Yeah, or yourself, right? How many
not moving on from yourself. That's like that meme where it's like, I can't even trust myself, and the guy had the gun pulled on himself in the Photoshop. Yeah, so how you gotta move on from yourself. That's deep, Carlie.
I mean, well, move on from past selves and generational trauma. Let's not
Carlie always making stuff extra deep. Oh my gosh.
But, I mean, that's real. What I meant, like, alluding to what you said, what I meant was, like, thinking that you weren't able to move past something in your life, that you would never get past it. Like, you know, high school me never thought I'd be over my high school sweetheart. My whole world was ended. And now I'm like, girl, you don't get your...
so trash. Everybody from high school is so trash.
You don't get your... Yeah, so that's what
real.
I mean, not moving on from yourself.
You never realize how strong you really are until, like, you're like, oh, I got through that. And I'm good. So that's definitely something I learned right now. I told Carlie, I was like, for our first episode, can we talk about moving on? Because that's something I'm dealing with right now. And it's just something, it's been like my whole summer project almost is, you know, figuring out how to move on from, for me, it was a relationship. I'm not even going to get, you know, all crazy into it. But, you know, like, how do you move on when you've been with somebody for a couple of years and, like, all of a sudden it's just like, and then I told her, like, when it's hard, because this wasn't like okay, we talked about it, it's better that we separate. This was they disappeared type thing. So it's kind of like hard because of that, and then hard just because, like, you know, asking all these questions, trying to figure out what to do, going through, like, those periods of trying to, you know, look them up, see what are they doing, what's going on with them, and, you know, all these things. And, like, how do you just move on? Because you know it's best the way things are. You know it's best to move on. You know, like, I recognize that. So it's not you know, it's an up and down thing of just dealing with it. It's like, all right, I know this is better, but, like, can I just forget about that? It might be flashy thing me or something. So I want to talk about it, some of the things that I know I've been doing that have really helped. And I really do feel like I'm in such a better place over the last few months, just trying different things. Yeah. So when I brought that up, though, Carlie was like, you know, she was talking about friendships and, you know, even family sometimes. There's people that you have to kind of, like, separate from, and
from a distance.
Yeah, and, like, how do you do that? How do you move on from relationships that are unhealthy? So, like, what other types of relationships come to your mind? For me, I'm just immediately thinking, like, romantic relationships. But
romantic is the first thing that usually pops into anybody's mind when you talk about moving on or letting go, because people always think somebody hurt, and sometimes people are. A lot of times, most of the time, I would just say people actually are. But whenever you said that, I was definitely thinking about friendships, about relationships that no longer serve you, about jobs or habits, just a lot of things that you know you need to move on. And really for me, it's realizing when it no longer serves you. But just because you realize that doesn't make it any easier. Like, if a friend's been in your life, like, let's say you have a friend from elementary school, right, that's been in your life, but they're doing things that, like, might cause you to lose focus or in the complete opposite direction of where you're trying to go, it might be time to move on. And not in a way where you don't love them anymore or you don't respect them or you don't even keep them in your life, but they have to be at some type of distance.
But to that point, so as I was thinking about this episode and kind of preparing what we were going to talk about, I got the question to myself, well, if you know this situation is bad and you know, like, okay, you're separated from this person or you have more space between you, why is it hard? You know, why, if you recognize that it was bad, why is it still hard?
Oh, I think that depends on the person. What I'll say is love, right? Just because I might not love what you're doing, but I can love you as a person. and I'm thinking about that like in a friendship, right? Like in the scenario that I gave, I might like, I'm trying to be an entrepreneur, and if one of my friends is trying to run an international like drug ring, then that might not be what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to save the world, so that might be. They're not, by the way. None of my friends are. That got awkward. But just thinking about like loving that person, or you know, them being a part of your life. Like, let's talk about family. Like, not all family relationships are healthy. A lot of them actually happen to be toxic.
Oh, you're right.
And so like, well, I don't want to just excommunicate you from my life, but how can I respect myself in this situation?
Hard. To me, well, for me, or am I just soulless? Because that's not hard to me. So I have one of my grandfathers, he'll send like those chain emails and stuff, and they're always like super conservative, or I don't want to say they're like pro-Trump, but they'll be like, you know, well, this is why this is good, you know, about getting immigrants out and stuff like that. And I'm like I just delete them. And he's a white man from like Centerville, Tennessee. He kind of like adopted my mom when she came to the United States. Like she lived with their family when she was going to college and stuff like that. So he considers us like his grandkids. But like, to me, I'm like, he doesn't understand like what this means for us, but he loves us, you know what I mean? And that's weird, but for some reason it's not hard for me to not talk to him. Hard. You know?
Okay, so, and what's interesting is that's not hard for me, because we both have like white family, right? And interesting, I didn't know you were first generation immigrant. Like my dad's an immigrant, and so that's also another connection that we got. Shout out to
we learning about each other and everything.
That's not hard for me. Like, I will inform them, and they have an opportunity to grow, but I don't, that's one thing I don't tolerate. Like, I tell my friends, there's a lot of areas in life that I'm gray on. Like, a lot where I can, like, I try to see both sides. But things like
some
that.
things are just wrong.
That to me is wrong, and I do not see both sides.
Okay.
I just don't. But I'm thinking more so like, okay, let's say you had a family member who maybe had a drug issue, or like was an alcoholic, and it used to be a really toxic relationship between you two, but maybe now they're changing, but not enough. Like, for it to be a healthy relationship. And so how can you like let
you can't still hang out with them, but at the same time you want to like be there for them kind of, and like, what do you do? And
I think all of it comes down to your boundaries and doing what's best for you. Like, that sounds really selfish, but if you're not your best self, you can't bring your best self to anything you're doing or to any other relationships or friendships in your life. You have to be selfish, period. And that's something I'm super duper learning in this period too, because so let me backtrack a little bit. So my first response to that, why is it hard to move on? For me, first thing that came to my mind is just familiarity and comfortability. Is that a word? Comfort. I think so. That's easier to say. Comfort works. Comfort and familiarity, because you're so used to, and sometimes you're even so used to pain. Like, you're so used to. Yes. Like, the whole time in that relationship, you may have been like, oh, I'm not happy with this, I'm not happy with that, or, you know, having your arguments or talking. Obviously, there's so much good stuff too. I don't want to paint anything like, oh man, it was all bad. It was awesome stuff, but then some of the things that weren't good they weren't good at all. But you're still familiar with that, and you're still somebody, you know, you can talk to, still somebody you can see, or, you know, whatever it is. And now, yeah, it's safe to a degree, but I think it also still does kind of represent where you are not serving yourself. So back to the selfish thing now, where you still need to be taking care of yourself first in those situations where way early on it should have been I see these things and I'm going to back away from it, because it's definitely not anybody's job to try to change somebody or whatever. Like, if you need to love them or accept them, do that, but we don't need to be together type thing, instead of letting it go, and now you're even more like in this web. And so when it's over, it's like, man, but I know what that web was. You know, even if it wasn't awesome, like, I know what it was, and I was letting myself be in it and be comfortable in it. So I think that's kind of what makes it hard, is just, dang, that's what you're used to. Another thing too is like, because you, in your mind, you had all these plans of what it could be, and it wasn't that though. Like, it's staying in reality. Like, oh man, it's hard because we could have did this, or we could have been this or that, but Lex, you weren't. So you need to see what was real. That's like falling in love, like, with the potential. It's like, falling in love with potential. Or hoping you're the one to help change somebody, or hoping that, you know, something does something different. Or just being fearful of starting over. Because people don't want to do that. Look, a lot of times with friends and relationships, like, you don't want to go through the dating phase of getting to know people. Me and one of my friends are talking about that, even with therapists. Like, it's hard to switch therapists because you don't want to, like, go through the whole getting to know someone phase again. It's interesting because a lot of people say that, like,
and that's one of the reasons why. Well, no, that's something I feel like for me, I never have a fear of starting over with stuff. In fact, I love starting over with.
Me too.
Like, I love new things. I don't like dating, period, because I just don't like dating. Like, I don't like talking to guys and going out. And to me, it feels like a hassle, because if you think about it in a way, like, you're trying to find somebody to date or to be with, like, I don't like that. I like for things to just kind of happen.
Organically.
Yeah, but I think for me, it was mostly, like, familiarity that makes it hard to move on, because... I mean, immediately, I got people I can call or whatever. At the same time, I guess, when you when you call and talk to people, then you start comparing, or you start thinking about, like, oh, well, the other guy did this, or, this thing is different in this case. So now you're trying to, like, move forward without really being over something else. And I don't know if that's healthy or not. But in some cases, I realized I was going out with a couple people and being like, I don't want to be here with you either, like. So, I don't want to waste my time. It's like you don't want to be just by yourself, but at the same time, I really, really don't want to be sitting in front of somebody I don't really enjoy. So that's kind of almost worse to me, too.
Yeah, it's just a very interesting thing. And I love starting over. Like, clearly moving across the country, like, starting a business. Like, it just is exciting, and it's fresh, and you can create whatever.
Or does that mean you have commitment issues? I might have that, too.
That's a different topic for another episode. But moving on... the whole topic, just thinking through, like, what keeps you in these situations that don't serve you. Mm-hmm. And is that comfort? Is that fear of, like, not finding someone else, right? Mm-hmm. Like, or someone, like, you're so a lot of times people will be willing to accept mediocre or, like, up, like, regular, like, lower level, and I don't like anything mediocre, mm-hmm. but mediocre treatment because they're, like, not sure what else is out there.
I think it's not knowing yourself all the way, too.
Oh, but that's what I was trying to get to, yes.
What's weird, though, is how... And sometimes I'm like, am I slow? Because I'm like, I'm 33, and it feels like really in the last couple of years, it's like I really know myself way more now. And you'll see all these things about, especially, like, online and stuff, too. We're going to always mention social media, probably, but... you see those people who are like, man, at 25, like, I'm going to have my stuff together and this and that. And it's like, haha. But some people do. And some people can.
And shout out to y'all.
And shout out to you. And I think maybe now it helps with that because you're seeing more out now. Like, I feel like I didn't see a lot of things until I was older. And then the fact that I wasn't a very fast individual. Like, I didn't have relationships, like, after college and, really get into that space, period. But, yeah, I'm like... As I turn 30, as I get older, I care so much more about, like, my goal is, like, I want to know myself, or I want to be myself. I don't want to say be my best self necessarily, but it's like, who am I really, and what do I really care about? What things make me happy? And I'm really starting to, as I grow, it's very easy to just be like, that's not it, and not care about it, or to really get into something. And I guess... with relationships, sometimes a slow up where it's like, you kind of deal with things that you shouldn't let yourself deal with. But I feel like every person you date or deal with is kind of a lesson where I feel like I keep getting better and better and better and better every time.
Exactly. One of my favorite books is A Return to Love by Marianne Williamson. Life-changing, game-changer for me. And the reason is it helped reframe the way that I see love. Because our bodies, our minds are all... a physical representation of every experience, every thought, every trauma we've ever been through, right? And so all of these experiences and all of these learned things shape the way that we see certain things, including love. And society very much so does. All the Disney movies, all those, like, women looking for a man, being very competitive, thinking that by the time I was 25, I needed to be married so I could have kids before 30 so I wouldn't be an old mom. And I'm knocking on 30's door this year, and I'm like, oh, thank God that didn't happen because, good God, like, I know myself so much better now than I did then. But it's only through these experiences and through this journey on myself. And in the book, it says relationships are a chance for people to reflect back to you, like, the lessons that you need to learn. And the areas that you need to work through issues in love. Like, the areas that you might not think you can love through, the areas where you might have trauma that you didn't even know you had until something happened with that person, and then you get triggered and you're like, oh my God, I thought I was over that, but clearly I have room to grow.
And that's what the thing, the actual quote about, like, you keep repeating the same mistakes until you get it. You're going to keep dealing with those same people until it starts clicking, or even until you take the personal responsibility to be like, let me stop choosing people that are projects. Let me stop choosing people who are like this or that, or in these certain places, whatever it is. But you have to actually recognize it and be like, okay, what can we do differently?
Yeah, and I think that's, you know, there's two sides. So one is like owning your part and owning that if you're the common denominator in all these situations in your life, that's the only thing you can control. But also in that same vein, just to be careful not to own other people's issues, like not to own other people's things. I think society so often sets it up like, oh, well, when the man finds the right woman, he'll change all his ways for her. No. And so a lot of times women will own that. Well, like, well, I guess I just wasn't the person because he didn't change his dog ways.
Or we change too much trying to be somebody to fit for something else, and you're not living in your space that you should be in, and therefore it's all fake anyway. Like,
exactly. But the onus isn't on the woman. Like, we each have our own responsibility to, not to sound cliche, but to be our best selves and to go on our own journeys of healing, and not to look for people to try to fill those hurt areas in our lives so we can be complete. Like, you have to work on being complete yourself.
That's one thing. So we're so far out from moving on, but one thing I noticed, the more I learn about all these things and boundaries and being a whole person, all of those types of things, is now I'm like that weirdo where I'll listen to music, watch movies, and I'm like, these are such unhealthy examples of love. Like, because they're always about, you complete me and I can't do anything without you and all these things. I'm like, this is so much codependence, and our whole culture, I feel like, is so off balance about you being a whole person and you trying to be a complete person yourself, and like two complete people coming together to where it just makes so much more sense.
Yeah, like 1 + 1 = 1. Like, to be in a relationship, not a half and a half.
Right.
And that, I think that happens so often.
But we get it wrong sometimes, or, you know, sometimes stuff just happens and you know, a relationship with a friend or with a romantic relationship has to end. So what are some things that you've had to do before, or ways that you've tried to move on? I know that Solange song. I was listening to that album the other day because it's been so long since I listened to it. And I listened to that song. I was like, ooh, girl, the one where she's like, I tried to do this.
I tried to dance it away. I tried to sex it away. I tried to write it away.
And I was like, girl, you're right. But like, it really doesn't work trying to like just fill in space and do other things to get over something. No. So how do you actually move on? Like, what are some actionable things?
Oh, gosh. So in that, you have to face it head on. Like, if you keep on running from something, eventually you're going to get tired and it's going to smack you in the face. And I think, like, I've learned that lesson the hard way. I've tried to exercise and do yoga and do all these things and get through things. But therapy definitely helps because it gives you an unbiased opinion, an unbiased outlook on your situation, and they give you actionable items and help you see things in a different way. Because often, you know, we only see life through the lens of our own vision, and they can help remove some of those bias goggles that we might be wearing.
But you said exercise, and I think that is a good part of it too. One thing I always notice, because you know how you can see the cues on social media when people are going through something, and they always start working out
and
more.
Jesus close.
It's like all of a sudden what is it about breaking up or being done with something that all of a sudden it's like you get a snap where it's like, I got to get myself together, and all of a sudden it's like I'm in the gym. All of a sudden you're thinking about what's your morning routine. All of a sudden you're doing these things you let yourself slip from doing before. Exactly, because you were more concerned about this other person, or you were more concerned about fitting something for them, and you let yourself love, and I'm putting that in air quotes because, you know, it could be other things, but you're letting that slip for somebody else, which already shows you that's a problem in that relationship. But that's one thing, like, all of a sudden you do feel so much better when you exercise, when you start doing things that you like to do. For me, like, going to the gym, it was great because there's like all obviously like natural and scientific things that are happening in your brain when you're working out, which are good. Yeah, not that it's a cure for anything, but you do feel better. Like, when you work out more, you feel good when you look good. Yes. So it's like taking care of yourself. Like, I started trying to make sure, like, every morning, like, I don't just throw a t-shirt on and walk out the door. Like, even if it's something slight, like, oh, let me put these cute little rings on, or, you know, let me get my baby hairs extra tight today. Like, it would be something little. Yeah, but, like, I was like, yo, I want to feel good and look good and not let anything be going, which obviously what you shouldn't be doing in a relationship that's, you know, that you're in. But all of those things, I think, do help.
I think, no, they definitely do. Like, feeling good, and me saying that wasn't to say, like, you shouldn't do that, because I will do yoga and exercise my way through pretty much everything. Meditation, journaling. Because I feel like a lot of times if you write things down,
good. Yeah.
Journaling, it's just free flow onto paper. Like the first few like lines may be like blah blah blah, but then all of a sudden you're writing down some deep trauma you didn't even realize you were dealing with, or some truth that you would try to subconsciously hide from yourself.
Ooh, I got a lot of stuff about journaling. Kind of one podcast that I stumbled across when I was just trying to deal with all this mess is called Baggage Reclaim. And it's really good because she just talks about like different things to be doing, like in relationships, out of them, breaking up, like a whole, scenario of being with people. And she's like, well, try unsent letters. And so in my phone, because part of moving on is you have so many things you want to say, but A, maybe they're not either not going to care, or B, it's not going to end up the way you want. Like we think like we can say like, well, this happened and this happened, and they're like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And like, it's not, but you need to feel like you're getting it out sometimes. So I started a note in my phone that was like letters to him. So, or anytime I had a thought where it's like, I want to text that, or I feel angry about something, I would write it down. Sometimes I would have good thoughts. Sometimes I'd feel like, man, I'm like really proud of, things you're doing or whatever. And I'd write those things down, but I never actually was writing them to that person. So it was just a matter of getting thoughts out. And then, of course, anybody who knows me, like on social media, I have like a journal. Like I'm a fiend for like writing and journals, and like I have 50 journals, and they all have a different reason or whatever. But I would write epiphanies or things that ideas. I'm being like, Lex, like it's on you to do blah blah blah, or whatever. So like I would always just try to write. But after a while, I felt like I was still kind of perpetuating like this. I'm still thinking about this person all the time because I'm writing about it.
Yeah.
Or maybe it's natural because now that I think about it, I haven't in a long time, but maybe that was a period where I had to just get things out or whatever.
Yeah,
get
and
those ideas
I think
out.
it happens. I think that moving on or growth, transition happens in stages in anything you do. So in the beginning, it might be
like stages of grief, kind of.
Exactly. So in the beginning, you might be angry, so you need to go throw some weights around 3 times a day or whatever. And then you might just be angry and need to vent to friends or your therapist or whoever. And then maybe it moves to like, dressing good and feeling good and re-owning all of those parts of yourself that you let slip because of something else. And then maybe writing. And I think that looks different for everybody. Which is also to say, like, we have no exact answers. This is not an exact science. I don't think moving on is an exact science at all. But like finding ways you can take care of yourself. Another thing I did, or another thing I do is I take myself on dates.
That's good.
Like, like getting dressed up for myself to feel good, like you said, to look good, and go out and, get a glass of wine.
Where you be going?
Girl, I can't tell people my spot. I'll take you though.
Where you be going?
I'm trying different stuff on Yelp. I love food. I'm a foodie. And so I love exploring good restaurants, but a lot of them have like good happy hours. And just going and just sitting with myself. I'll take a journal. I'll take a book. Right now I'm reading We're Going to Need Some More Wine. Gabrielle Union's book. And I took myself on a date. I was having a really like tough day, just processing thoughts, and I'll just go do that. The Artist's Way is another really good book by Julia Child. It's not Julia Childs, because that's the
Artist's
cook.
Way. I'll look it up.
But The Artist's Way, and she talks about the way to break through like a writer's block or anything for creativity is to take yourself on artist dates. So all the things that you've always wanted to do that either you couldn't like make the time for it, and that's air quotes.
It's by Julia Cameron.
Julia Cameron. I knew it wasn't Childs, but yes, that's a great book for breaking through in creativity. But in the like facet of moving on, another way of reconnecting with yourself is going to do all these things that you either would have done with the person or your friend, and just doing them yourself and realizing that there's joy in owning things for yourself. It doesn't always have to be with another person.
And to that point too, I think something I super started doing was hanging out more with your friends. And I think a lot of times we can get in relationships and start, giving our friends less attention. For me, I just brought more on. So I didn't give the ones I had less attention. I'm really not a huge hangout person anyway, so I'm not like with friends all the time. And my relationship was like a long distance thing anyway. So it wasn't like, I was like down in my friends to hang out with them or see them because I didn't see them that much. But I immediately felt better when I would hit up Carlie, or I hit up Lauren, or I hit up Derry, or like whoever, and like let's hang out and we can have a good time, like just going out and hanging out and talking and things like that. So it's not me just sitting in my room in the dark like, damn, Lex, like you're mad lonely by yourself. Like that's the thing too, is not like sometimes you do need to let yourself soak a little bit, but sometimes it's like, all right, girl, like get up and go do stuff. And remembering life before that person is really important for me, because it's like, all of a sudden you're like, I was fine before I met this person. You know, and that's not something you could do with family, but, you know, with friends that you might have to move on from, in relationship you might have to move on from. It's like, yo, who was I before? Like, I was this cool, dope, independent person that was attractive to them because of that, because of who I was, because of who I am. Which, a lot of times, that's funny, too, how a lot of times you start trying to change up, and now, you know, you're kind of pushing them away with that, you know? But it was like, yeah, like, I was fine, so I'll be fine now. Like, I was fine before you.
Yeah, and I think that's also recognizing that it's going to be up and down. Like, some days you are going, you're going to be in that state of enlightenment that you're saying everything is going right, killing it in business, getting new clients, kicking it with friends, stunting on the gram, because Lex be stunting on the gram sometimes, y'all.
And then the next day I'll be at home in my bed, wrapped like, I don't want to get up.
Wrapped in a blanket like a burrito, probably ordering a burrito on Uber Eats or whatever.
Dang, how you know my life?
I'm only, talking about
I'll be killing Uber Eats, y'all.
But this goes to an interesting thing, since we're talking about social media. Dun, dun, dun.
This is the hardest part.
Snooping.
I swear. He's always, like, made fun of me. Like, oh, you're a detective. But you know how when you know things, but then even if you don't want to say how you know it, or... It's like, I feel like maybe guys aren't as aware or, like, see things the same way as us. But, like, I can see, you know, interactions, and I can... And let me take that back a little bit, because we should not be assuming that, right? I should not ever look at something I don't know and make assumptions about it.
Valid.
But a lot of them are right sometimes. But past that, you know, if once I'm not talking to this person anymore, and I'm like, all right, Lex, like, you gotta move on. I got into this addictive cycle of, like, checking on them, looking at their stuff, not saying anything to them now. For once, and I think I dealt with the certain issues with this person so often that when it did cut, it was like, okay, like, disappointed but not surprised. It was kind of like that feeling, and not that it didn't hurt. Like, I was very, very hurt, and I was very, like, angry, sad, all those things. But at the same time, I very quickly, and this would kind of have to do with, like, what we said last week. Like, sometimes you move through things a little quicker as you're a little bit more wiser and grow. But very quickly, I was like, okay, but I know, you know, this is what it is type thing. But I wasn't talking to the person, but I could tell you everything they posted. I could tell you everything they comment. I could tell who that new person that they disappeared on me and talked to, like, see all their stories, see the stuff that they were mentioning that made me know exactly what was going on with them. And let me take that back again, not exactly, because that's the problem, is I'm making a lot of assumptions about stuff I don't know. Like, I don't really know anything, but I was really just in this loop of checking for somebody, and all it was doing was just hurting me, like, more and more and more. So I'm like, Lex, why are you doing this? Like, I don't want to see this, but at the same time, it was fulfilling something, but super unhealthy.
I think, and I am a reformed snooper of a couple years, praise God. But I think it just makes you feel really terrible, really freaking terrible. Like, and then you start comparing yourself if there is another person, or you think there's another person. Let you catch a couple of hard eyes under a picture, and all of a sudden you're comparing yourself to whatever you see. And what's crazy is this amazing, beautiful, intelligent, capable, confident woman that you are. And now you're comparing yourself to another woman who you don't like. You're not wishing them harm or anything like that, but you're like comparing yourself, and you fall down this rabbit hole.
You're trying to figure out, like, well, what happened, or what's this, or...
I won't go into too much of that, because I'm just so grateful that I broke that really unhealthy cycle, like vicious cycle in my life. But what I started doing is, like, whenever I would do it, I would start praying, and I know this says the whole beat the change.
Holy Carlie.
I would start praying for him and the girls. I'm like, God, like, whatever this jealousy or whatever this, like, hole in my heart is, like, I want you to feel it. I want to feel it myself. I don't need to feel it with stuff like this. And just wishing them well. And whenever you go on someone's page to wish them well, like, it's a whole different experience.
You're right about that, the way you think about it, because I'm not going to say I was necessarily wishing people well, like, but what I would tell myself that I care about, you know, this person's well-being or whatever. At the same time, it still sucked to be looking like, why do I do that? Why do I care? And so how I would try to stop, the first way I tried to stop was on my calendar. I tried to put an X on the day I didn't check for them.
Okay.
But then I realized, like, I'm thinking about not checking, and so I want to check. You know, I'm still thinking about it all day. So I think the most I ever did with that was, like, maybe 14 days. And then I looked, and once I go in and look, now I'm, like, stuck in it again, like, super quick. What happened, and this is going to sound crazy, but I heard some podcast or something too, probably, but it just clicked in my mind where it's like, Lex, this hurt you to do this? You're not even talking to this person. It's, like, I'm not saying anything to them. I'm just seeing stuff just to be seeing it. And it doesn't help anything. like, why are you doing this? Just stop. Like,
Yeah.
it literally was just a decision, like, just stop. And I just stopped, and I haven't looked at anything. And the funny thing is, I know with me, I have more of an audience. So I'm like, I feel like he probably has to see my name every day, all day, still, just from like people retweeting me or doing whatever. But I'm pretty sure he has me blocked. But then still, you see that can't see this tweet thing.
Exactly.
When people forward to me. We don't have that many people like that we haven't commented online, but it's enough. I'm sure. You know, that's how we first started talking. But I don't ever see any of his stuff. Period. Like, I don't have him blocked. That's one thing we talk about. Like, should you block them or not look at, mute them or whatever? At some point, I tried to mute, but then I would just go there and go there and go there. You can't.
I don't think that you can. Like, you can't set up offenses to keep yourself from doing what you want to do, or what you're going to do anyways.
Exactly.
I like what you said. Like, I did do that for a while when I still found myself. Like, anytime I found myself snooping, I would do that. But I just had to make a decision. I'm like, this doesn't make me feel good. It starts this vicious cycle. It's not furthering my business, my purpose. It's not doing anything for me. It's literally making me feel terrible. And I just
literally decided to stop. And the longer, and this is the thing about habits too, the longer you do a good habit or that you stop a bad habit, you start feeling more confident in yourself. Like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, I am fine.
I don't even need to do that.
And it's, whatever's going on over in that world is like, I do wish the best, but it's like, that doesn't have anything to do with me. So I'm not missing anything, and I'm okay about it. That being said, all of this stuff with me happened maybe a few months ago, 3, 4, or 5 months ago. And yeah, like, it all still like can hurt or whatever. And there's some days like I'll think about it and like I'll have an angry moment, or I'll feel sad, like this really isn't where I thought this was going to be. And then there's some days I'm not thinking about it at all. And there's starting to be more and more of those days where I don't think about it at all. So I'm like, all right, it's just time. And so the more I start to realize it, like, it's just time, and focusing on doing those things that I know I need to be doing, that is fine. And not doing that snooping, like not looking at stuff that doesn't serve me or doesn't help me at all, like at all.
Yeah, so it's riding the wave, the ebbs and flows of life. Like, you're gonna have bad days, right? And so some of those bad days include thinking about that. But there's also good days when you remember good things about that person or situation, but not attaching yourself to that, and still doing what's best for you and maintaining those boundaries. So if blocking them is something that you need to do to set boundaries for you, then that's
especially
something that
at
you
first.
do.
I think, and for me, you know what I was worried about too? I had unfollowed him on everything after a while. Like, it was a few months, and then I unfollowed him on everything just because I got to a point where I realized, like, I actually don't respect this person as a person of their word, and I don't want to. It's weird because it's like I love them and I love so many things about them. At the same time, it's like we're not cool, so why do I need to be connected with you? And I don't want to see you popping up on my stuff. So I didn't do all the blocking and stuff, but for me, the weird thing though is that I was like, man, Lex, I'm still thinking about him first. Cause I was like, man, he's going to think that really I'm doing this because of this or that. And I'm like, Lex, no, it doesn't matter what they think about why you're blocking them, why they're following them or whatever. I just did it because that's what I needed to do. And I'm like, I just don't want to be associated anymore. And I was like, I'm done. This is how I knew in my mind I was really done. Because you know how sometimes we fake ourselves out, like, oh, I'm gonna mute him, whatever. Because we'd had so many ups and downs anyway where that happened, where it's like, oh, we didn't talk for a couple weeks, then they reach out one time and you're all back into it. And so this was really me being like, Lex, if I do this, like, I ain't following nobody back after I'm following. like I'm for damn sure not doing that. So this was me being like, Lex, I'm seriously letting it go. I'm trying to let it go. But I think that if you need to block somebody or whatever at first, like, do it. I think that's drastic for little things, but for me, I knew it was kind of like a permanent let go.
Yeah, and I think that all goes down to what boundaries you need to set for yourself. So in this case, it doesn't sound like friends is something that's possible, or even something that would benefit you in any way. So that wouldn't be something you pursue. But if that person is a friend and is something you want to work on, like building a friendship, just make sure you set clear boundaries and protect yourself. You have to protect your peace. Yeah,
that's exactly what it is. And that's when I found myself still thinking about what will he think about certain things. It was like, no, like, what do I want to do and what do I care about? And like, let me move in a way that I think will best serve me. To that, sometimes you're trying to move on from somebody and they reach out to you and they're still trying to, reach out to you or talk to you or whatever. In my case, I feel like that's how you know when somebody knows they're wrong, because they don't even try to, like, they just let it go. And they're like, they don't try to reach out. I know that somebody who has a lot of pride probably will never apologize about anything ever in his life. And I have to be okay for that. You cannot sit around waiting for apologies from anybody. And I can't, even if I've thought about it, like, you know, if this person were to hit me and be like, I'm sorry about this, and I did do this, and blah, 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 like, what difference does that make, you know?
How does that help your day?
It doesn't help anything. And that's another thing about closure, I think, which is a myth, because getting these answers to your questions, well, why did this happen? Why did you walk away? Or, you know, why didn't we work out or whatever? Even if you get those answers, it doesn't matter, because all that matters is that it didn't work out, or all that matters is like, hey, we're not friends anymore, or hey, I need my space from you. And so I think you have to be okay with a lot of unanswered questions, and I think you have to be okay with just knowing, hey, like, it's just me now, and like moving on, you know, without that person. And
being okay with that, right? Like, not getting the apology, because even when you get it, because I got one like years later, I'm like, first of all, how'd you get my number? But in real life, like, it doesn't matter. Like, I'm not holding on to that. Like, I forgave you a long time ago, because what I'm not going to do is carrying around any anger or harbor all of those emotions towards you. I'm already carrying so much. I don't need to carry anything else that I need, and I'm lightening my load.
You feel way more free.
Yeah.
And again, it's like some days you feel like, wow, you know, let go, like, cool for them, like, love them, best for them, and then other days it's not. So either way, but, you know, I say that to say, like, I felt really proud of myself as well for never reaching back out to them, like seeing their silence or seeing them walking away as that's their answer, that's their thing. So I don't need to sit here and try to reach out to you about this or that, or try to open up lines of communication. There's one time I said something to him because it was like really just on my mind, so crazy I had to say it out. And when I texted him, he responded back like, wow, that was so timely that you said that, and that was a very like one of the most meaningful texts you sent me. And it was so simple what I said, you know, just that I'm rooting for you, because I know he has a lot of work that he's doing and projects and stuff, and I just wanted to let him know, like, if anything, you know, I support you with those things. But, you know, he wants to do a lot of good in the world, too, and a lot of things he's working on. And I just said, I'm rooting for you. And he was like, man, that's so meaningful right now. And that was it. And maybe, like, a couple months later, he tried to send me something. He'll send me random thing. I think he just wants to see if his number's blocked.
Or to see if you respond.
Or if I respond. But, you know, that was the thing. He wasn't a good communicator, really, anyway. So, like, he doesn't respond to stuff that much. But, I'm proud of myself because I can look at it and be like, yeah, and just put my phone back down. Like, I'm not about to, if you know, sometimes you send random stuff just to get something started because you don't want to actually say hello, but, and it might not have been that. Again, I'm trying to learn to not make assumptions about anything. Like, I can't tell you why somebody does what they do, but I'm not open to talking to this person, and
that's okay. But that's the thing, that's okay.
But do you think you can ever come back, you know?
Well, come back to what? That's my thing.
Sometimes, see, and that's how I know I'm, like, still working through stuff, because sometimes you're like, what if in 10 years I see them, and, you know, that's probably not a good thing to think about either. That means I'm still not fully moved on, I guess.
Well, but that's okay, and I like, there's no judgment. Like, if you have those thoughts, like, that's cool, and you can think about that, but if it's meant to work out, it will. And I know that sounds really frou-frou.
But don't be living for that to happen.
Yeah, but you can't live for that to happen. You can't tailor your life to it. Like we were talking about.
Because do you think they're sitting around tailoring their life to you?
Exactly, but are you really doing yourself a service if you're tailoring your life to possibly something maybe one day with somebody else? Right? And so it's drawing that in. I love how you keep saying don't make assumptions about things. It's one of the 4 agreements.
I always got to keep catching myself because we do that automatically. And we don't even realize, like, you're making all these assumptions about what they think, and that doesn't matter. And
that's the 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz.
Yeah, that one's really good.
But also, like, don't take anything personally. So when you make all these assumptions, you're taking it personally, thinking that people are doing things because of you or not because of you.
And it's not on you.
But it's not about
Most
you.
of the time, it's not about you.
That's the one that speaks to me the most, because I tend to take things personally that have not a thing to do with me. So I think it really comes down to boundaries and doing what's best for yourself. Like, if you let them back in, if they reach out, if you should reach out, whatever type of relationship you want to have, however serves you best, if that's not talking to them ever again.
And you know what feels good and what doesn't feel good. And I think we try to convince ourselves, like, when we get that feeling, or like they reach out to you and you know it's not good, but you're like, well, maybe this or maybe that. And we try to think our way into making it the right thing to do. But you really have to trust your body. I got away a little bit from trust your intuition as a thing, because a lot of times your intuition is just your own, like, bad habits that you have built up. And, like, your intuition is why you've been dating the same, you know, person with these same type of flaws maybe for, like, 10 years or whatever it is. So, but I think that we have to listen to ourselves, like, when you know, like, I don't need to do this, or, you know, I need to not be in this space. and really pay attention to that and be bold and not fall for it.
Yeah, and I think that involves like taking a journey like into yourself and being still. I think that's something that people also don't do a lot. Like taking time for yourself, like not listening to what Carlie says is your friend and, you know, F him because I love you and I'm mad that he did whatever he did or whatever happened. So I'm coming at it like that. Like you can't listen to other people. Like sometimes you have to make decisions for yourself.
Yeah, other people don't know the full story.
No. And I'm very biased.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and even, I don't know, even with yourself, again, like I can look at things and I think a lot of times we realize we're justifying stuff ourselves or justifying that person. Because now, like, if I think about it, it's like, damn, it's really on me. I look crazy because why was I around that, you know? But again, I keep saying this too because I don't want to be like, oh, this evil person. Like, I wouldn't have liked somebody who was like ridiculous or evil. Like, it's a great person, but it just wasn't right. But I learned a lot of things. Like, I did a lot of growth through those ups and downs. Hopefully, maybe he did too. One thing he's told me before is like, you know, I have a thing about pulling the best out of people. And I think about it now sometimes and I'm like, dang, but I feel like I failed with you. But at the same time, that's not my job. And maybe there are things that, you know, I'd like to think that, oh, maybe there are things where he grew in different ways or whatever, you know, through our relationship. But yeah, like.
And that's the purpose of relationships.
Yeah.
Is to grow and to teach lessons and to learn lessons. And even if he never tells you, you know, that you did, I'm sure that you did. Because you do bring the best out of people. Like, you challenge people. Like, that's just...
Thank you.
That's just who you are as a person. But I think there's going to be a lot of moments in our lives when we have things abruptly end. And that we have to move on from that we really care about. Yeah, that you're forced to. The universe is just like, nah, dog, and closes the door on you. And you're like, well, damn, like, I thought that was it. But, I mean, hell, I'm here.
But it forces you to get uncomfortable to take that time to reflect on yourself, like you were saying. It brings you back to, well, what do I actually care about and who am I, which is good. And now hopefully you go into meeting new friends or meeting, you know, new potential people you might want to date with more of a sense of, you know what, I'm not going to lose that again this time. Or, you know, there's certain things I'm seeing early and now I can easily be like, I know this isn't going to work because I've done this before or I've seen that. So it's just a matter of taking those experiences and growing with it. But moving on is hard, but you have to do, like, you're forced to do it.
You have to do it to level up.
Yeah, you have to.
Now it's like Lex, like 2.0.
That's the cool thing, too, because you do level up, dog.
You do.
You level up
the glow
so crazy.
Is real.
Yeah, you
and
do.
I'm grateful for all those moments because I wouldn't be, you know, who I am or where I am had I not, you know, had those situations, not even in just romantic relationships. I'm not going to give them all of that credit, but all of the no's and all of the closed doors and all of the things that I had to move on from, like, that's a whole
other thing when you talk about work and clients, things like that. Like, sometimes stuff just doesn't work and you're like, shoot, like, I was already counting that check. I was already counting this and that opportunity, but then something even better is happening. And that sounds so fairy tale-ish, but it literally, getting certain things out of the way or certain things not working, it's always space for you to be like, actually, this is really going to be better, or something else works out. Always, like, every time. That's
in episode 1 we talked about how we couldn't have put our lives together like this, but look how beautiful it is. Like, look how everything worked together without us even knowing, like, the pieces that could fit together. It's like a puzzle piece in a mountain, but it works.
It really is, man. Like, life is really beautiful. Like, and that's another thing, perspective. That's something I learned from him. It's like having perspective to see this big picture and knowing that, hey, you've been fine. You're only really, things are getting better and you're still having opportunities to keep making it better. And stuff always works out because it always has. Like, looking back at any issue, it's always worked out. So,
and it always will.
There's no point in, like, sitting around worrying and whatever. And when you find yourself doing that, that's when you go to some of those things like we talked about, where you're hanging out with your friends. You know, try therapy, try writing, try different things just to focus, hear your thoughts, like, listen to what you're going through, listen to yourself, kind of, and trying to work through it, I guess.
And the beautiful part is, if it doesn't work, try something else.
Explore.
Exactly.
Because it took me a lot of different things till I finally was like, well, it just clicked to stop snooping. And I feel so much better now, but it's like, Lex, why did it take you so long? At the same time, that was probably maybe only a couple months, where there's people who probably could do that for years, you know? So
I know people who still do it.
Yeah, and I mean...
And it's no judgment, but it feels so bad.
It does, and that's really something with our age that is just another added pressure to deal with.
Oh, that segues into our question.
Does it? Yay. Yeah, that was... It really does, yep. So our question of the week, Carlie, give it to him.
What bad habits am I fueling? What bad habits am I fueling?
So that's what we're thinking about this week. for me, I feel like any bad habit I have is I'm fueling it. That's why I have it as a bad habit. But I would have said that because the more I did, the more I wanted to do it, which was weird. And I just kept going and going and going and putting pieces together. Thank God. I think I'm kind of over it now. There's every once in a while too, and the fact that I've gone so long without doing it, that when I do think about it and start to be like, should I type it in? I was like, I've gone too far. So now I'm at a good point where it's like, nah, I can't go back because I've already gone too far. And now I feel like I'm starting all over and wiping all that progress away. So that's good. But yeah, I think I do have a few bad habits and I'm fueling. Sometimes it's just about snapping into action. Like how you talked about being in bed all day. Like I struggle in the mornings and I'm trying to always find new ways to like, Lex, like, I want to be that person who wakes up excited and like just get up and get going, but I'm just like, like in bed, like, just chilling. But there's a few.
Yeah, I mean, I think a laundry list probably, and it might depend on the day.
Right.
Might depend on the day, but mine are around like taking actionable steps and things I've been procrastinating on.
Bad procrastination. Because the more you procrastinate, the better it feels. Like the more you procrastinate, the more you want to like, I'll just take a nap. And then you're like, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll take another nap.
Okay,
and you keep going farther and further, and then you get super stressed because now you have to do the thing.
And it's like that meme.
Every time.
It's like whenever you have so many things to do, you just decide to take a nap.
God. It feels so good to keep procrastinating. And it's so terrible.
And a lot of times for me, it could be under the guise of self-care. Like, oh man, I'm just having a rough day.
Also, I tweeted about that one time. Like, is it really self-care or are you just procrastinating? Because sometimes you need to chill and like do your work. Exactly. Sometimes you need to do your work and that's your self-care.
Because, baby girl, and I'm just talking to myself, self-care ain't got to take all day. And you still got to get them checks. Like, you got to get them checks.
Listen, it ain't going to feel like self-care when you stressed out and now you got a deadline.
Dog. So, this week, be thinking about what bad habits are you fueling with your thoughts, with your actions, like, with everything.
Let us know. Use the hashtag Carlie's Couch. Oh, another thing. So I want to see who's listening. If you're listening to our podcast, screenshot it, throw it in your Instagram story, add us, Lextopia, CC Fierce. Let us know that you're listening. That way, I'm not going to ask you to do nothing crazy and do no big post because I know you got a brand to protect and all that. But throw it in the story because I'd love to just see, who's paying attention, who's listening, and how you feel about the episode so far.
Yeah, we appreciate you. Hope you have a beautiful week.
Have a good one. See you next week.
Bye, y'all.
Bye. Look, now I got country. Bye.